She killed my brother." The shout cracked through the cathedral like lightning, stunning the mourners mid-hymn. Heads turned, gasps flared. The choir stopped singing. Pallbearers froze mid-step. At the back of St. Augustine's, a young black girl stood trembling in her oversized navy coat. Her voice echoed again, smaller, but defiant. "She killed him. She did it on purpose." The air hung heavy with incense and disbelief. Up front, near the white, lily-covered casket of 8-year-old Ethan, stood Clarice Elegant, controlled, impeccably dressed in mourning black. Her lips curled in horror, but not surprise. Lawrence Maddox, billionaire tech mogul, philanthropist, and father to the 2 adopted children now reduced to one, stood at the pulpit, too stunned to speak. His eyes found the girl, his daughter, Anna. She pushed past the guests, gripping a small stuffed bear, her eyes red-rimmed but burning with something more than grief. "Clarissa did it. She planned it," Anna said, voice cracking. "She hurt Ethan on purpose." Clarissa scoffed, her pearl earrings catching the stained glass light. "Lawrence, are we really going to entertain this scene?" the congregation murmured. Some turned to leave, others watched, frozen. Lawrence raised his hand. "Anna," he said slowly, "I know you're hurting, but this isn't the time." Anna's chin lifted. Her small hand reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper, edges wrinkled. "You don't believe me," she whispered. "But I have proof." Clarissa's eyes twitched. Anna stepped forward, her hand trembling as she held the paper out to her father. "I got it from the library printer, at the house." Lawrence took it, frowning. A printed email. He read it once, then again. "Insurance is transferred. After this weekend at the lake, everything will be settled. See." Silence swallowed the church. Clarissa took a sharp breath, then laughed lightly. "It's fake. Anyone can write an email." "There's more," Anna said, clutching the stuffed bear tighter. "Ethan's bear. He called it Mr. Paws. Uncle Elias gave it to him and hid a recorder inside, just in case." She turned the bear around, unzipped its back, and revealed a small device. She looked at Lawrence. "Press play." His fingers were stiff, but he pressed the button. A hiss, then a voice cold, unmistakably Clarissa's. "If you say anything, I'll tell them the accident was your fault. Who do you think they'll believe? A black orphan or the billionaire's loving wife?" And just like that, the truth shattered the silence. A child's courage brought justice to the edge of a sacred space. But what would you have done in Lawrence's place? Do you believe Anna's voice would have been heard without the recording? Let us know your thoughts in the comments wherever you're watching this. If this story moved you, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a moment that matters. The room erupted, gasps, shouts. Someone stood to call the police. Clarissa lunged forward, trying to snatch the bear. "That recording is illegal." Maddox stepped between them, his eyes blazing now not with disbelief, but betrayal. "You said the brakes failed," he murmured. "You said it was just a terrible accident." Clarissa's face twisted. "You know how much you've put me through, raising someone else's children like they were mine. I deserved something. Get out," he growled. Clarissa turned, shrieking, but 2 guests had already moved to block her. Lawrence looked down at Anna, his little girl, his daughter. She stared back, her eyes still swimming with tears. "She killed my brother." He sank to his knees and pulled her into his arms, crushing her against his chest. "Not another second, Anna," he whispered. "I promise you we'll get justice for Ethan." Outside, the sirens were already approaching. The police escorted Clarissa from the cathedral under a wave of hushed disbelief. The once celebrated wife-to-be, poised and flawless, now looked like a collapsed illusion in designer heels. Lawrence watched her disappear beyond the church doors, a strange numbness taking root in his chest. He had built empires, outmaneuvered cutthroat businessmen, seen lies spun in boardrooms and buried in contracts, but none of that prepared him for the tremble in his daughter's voice. For the voice in the bear, for the realization that he hadn't seen if hadn't wanted to. Inside the cathedral, the mourners began to whisper. Some slipped away, some stayed hovering, watching, curious if the Maddox name would survive this scandal. Anna sat on the front pew, clutching Mr. Paws, her shoulders hunched. A deacon tried offering her a blanket. She waved him off. Lawrence approached slowly, crouching beside her. "Are you all right?" She didn't answer. Her jaw was tight. Tears rimmed her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "I should have listened," he said quietly. "She told me no one would," Anna murmured, still staring straight ahead. "She said you only kept us around to look good." Lawrence flinched. "That's not true." Anna turned her face to him then, eyes filled with something raw. "You changed after you married her. You stopped playing board games. You missed Ethan's birthday. You called us the kids like we were furniture." He swallowed. "She told me you two were acting out, that you were struggling to adjust. She made us feel like guests. Then she made us feel invisible." Lawrence exhaled. Guilt pressed down like bricks. "Do you know why she took you to the lake that weekend?" "She said it was a surprise. Just her and us. She even let us stop for ice cream." "And then?" Anna closed her eyes, voice barely above a whisper. "The car started swerving. She said the brakes were out. She screamed like it was real, but I saw her foot press harder on the gas." Lawrence's heart pounded. "She unbuckled Ethan. She told him to check something under the seat. Then we hit the tree." Lawrence felt his gut twist. The coroner's report had trauma, a pine tree off Lakeshore Drive. The fire department had said it was a miracle Anna survived. He had accepted it. Clarissa cried in his arms that night, trembled, shivered, lied. "How did the email end up in the printer?" he asked. "I remembered Ethan once said Clarissa always printed her travel stuff from the library office because you had the printer passworded in your study." I looked. "She didn't know you had?" Anna shook her head. "She was on the phone a lot. I had time." Lawrence glanced down at the email again. That damning line. "Chundi ho kwitun nicer zai quit somwithu." It wasn't even carefully worded. It was casual, as if planning a grocery list. He rose and looked around. People were still staring. The church had become a cage. "Let's go home," he said. Anna stood slowly, holding her bear tightly. "She'll try to say it's fake, that I made it up. I know. She'll hire lawyers. I'll hire truth." That night, the Maddox estate sat under a moonless sky. Lawrence walked through the halls alone, the grandeur of the mansion suddenly cavernous. The walls held no warmth. He passed Clarissa's piano room, now eerily silent. A picture frame of their wedding rehearsal sat on a side table. He flipped it face down. In his study, he poured himself a drink he didn't touch. Anna had gone to sleep hours ago after finally eating half a grilled cheese. She hadn't let go of the bear all evening. Lawrence opened his safe. Birth certificates, adoption papers, wills. His hand hesitated over a thick folder, his insurance portfolio. There it was. A month before the accident, he had added Clarissa as the primary beneficiary to the children's life insurance policies. She had insisted it was just paperwork. "If something ever happens when I'm with them," she'd said, "it'll be faster." Have felt sick. A knock interrupted his thoughts. It was Anna, pajama-clad, eyes sleepy but awake with something else. "I remembered something," she whispered. He gestured for her to sit. "When I was in the ambulance," she said slowly, "I wasn't out the whole time. I heard her say something on the phone." "What did she say?" She said, "I had to improvise." The girl's still breathing. Lawrence's stomach turned. He rose suddenly, opened the drawer of his desk, and pulled out a digital recorder. He didn't know why he kept I Told habits from boardroom paranoia. He set it beside the bear, pressed record, and said softly, "Everything you remember, Anna. Say it now. All of it." She spoke for nearly 20 minutes. Clear, careful, her words a thread unraveling a larger lie. When she finished, she looked at him. "What happens now?" Lawrence looked at the bear, the email, the insurance form, then at his daughter. "Now," he said, voice like steel, "we find out everything she tried to bury." Anna nodded once, slow and solemn. Outside, wind rustled the trees. Inside, a storm was gathering. By morning, the estate was blanketed in fog, thick like the weight pressing on Lawrence's chest. He stood in the breakfast room, coffee untouched, the windows casting pale light over marble counters and silence. In his hand was the printed email. Again, he'd read it a dozen times since dawn, hoping some line would prove it a hoax, but it never did. Upstairs, Anna remained asleep in the guest room. Her old bedroom had been redecorated at Clarissa's request last winter. Her teddy bear, Mr. Paws, sat on the nightstand like a sentinel. Lawrence checked his watch and dialed. "John, it's me," he said as soon as his longtime lawyer picked up. "I need to reopen the accident investigation. Yes, I know it's closed. I have new evidence. And John, keep this private. No one outside your team." He hung up, then made a second call. "Daniel Gray, FBI, retired. I need a favor." Huh. 3 hours later, Gray sat across from him in the study, eyes flicking from the email to the recorder to the printouts. A hard man in his late 50s, Daniel had once been Lawrence's go-to for corporate investigations. Now he read through the evidence in silence, jaw flexing. "Jesus," he muttered finally, pushing the papers back across the desk. "This is more than betrayal. It's premeditation." "You believe it?" Lawrence asked, voice hoarse. Daniel looked up, expression hard. "I believe your daughter. I've seen enough scared kids to know when one's telling the truth." Lawrence leaned back. "What do we do next?" "Start quiet. Verify everything. Confirm insurance documents, digital footprints, and that recorder's authenticity. We'll follow the chain. Find out if anyone helped her. If this was just hair or something bigger." Lawrence nodded slowly. "I want her arrested." "You'll get her charged," Daniel said. "But not yet. We need her to feel safe, reckless. That's when people make mistakes." That afternoon, Anna sat at the edge of the fountain in the backyard, feeding crumbs to birds. Lawrence watched her from the patio, hesitant. She noticed him and waved him over. "Can I show you something?" He followed her across the grass, down the garden path Clarissa used to brag about at charity dinners. At the base of the ivy-covered gazebo, Anna knelt and pulled back a loose stone from the border. Inside was a small tin box. She opened it, revealing crayon drawings, faded photos, and a child's wristwatch. "Ethan and I made this our secret spot," she whispered. "Whenever we were scared, we'd leave something here, something that proved we were still us." Lawrence took a photo from the pile. Ethan, grinning in a goofy hat, arms around Anna. Behind them, the Monroe Lake house shimmered in the background. His heart clenched. "He said he wanted to keep our memories safe," she added, voice shaking, "in case grown-ups tried to erase them." He looked at her, blinking back moisture. "I should have protected you." Anna shook her head. "You still can." That evening, Daniel returned with his findings. The insurance policy had indeed been altered. A request dated 3 weeks before the accident changed the beneficiary from Lawrence's estate to Clarissa Monroe, citing domestic continuity. "She used a digital signature token registered under your old assistant," Daniel said. "We're verifying if he was involved or if she lifted his credentials." "And the email?" Lawrence asked. "Traced to a burner account, but the IP matches her personal tablet." Lawrence's fist clenched. "She didn't even try to hide it. Why would she? You trusted her. That's the first mistake every mark makes." A knock sounded at the front door. Lawrence frowned, checked his watch. It was past 9. A man in a black jacket stood on the porch, holding a large envelope. "Mr. Maddox," the man said, "private courier. This is for you." Lawrence opened it in the study. Inside were color photos. His breath left him. Clarissa, standing at a dock. A man beside her, stranger, tall, dark hair, sunglasses. In one frame, she handed him what looked like a flash drive. In another, she leaned in, whispering something. Attached was a note. "You're not the only one who knows. She's not working alone. D." Daniel examined them. "This man. I've seen him. Felix Navarro, former consultant for Lakeview Security, specialized in insurance fraud cover-ups." Lawrence sat heavily. "She hired someone to help her stage the accident?" Daniel nodded. "And if Navarro's involved, it wasn't just a staged crash. It was a hit designed to be untraceable." Suddenly, Anna burst into the study, face pale. "I think someone's watching the house." Lawrence rushed to her. "What do you mean?" "I saw a man across the street. Same one who followed us from the store yesterday." Daniel moved fast. "I'll check the cameras. Don't let her out of sight." In the control room, they pulled up footage. Sure enough, a black sedan had parked across from the house for nearly 40 minutes. A man sat inside, engine running, never stepping out. Daniel zoomed in. Navarro. Lawrence looked at the screen. His home, once a fortress, now a battlefield. He turned to Anna. "From now on, you don't leave my side." She nodded. "I wasn't going to anyway." That night, Lawrence stood at Ethan's empty bedroom door. The dinosaur sheets, the shelf of books untouched since the crash, the nightlight still glowing faintly. He whispered into the silence, "I'm sorry, son." From behind, Anna stepped beside him. She reached for his hand, small fingers wrapping around his. "You're not alone anymore," she said. For the first time in weeks, he believed it. The next morning, the estate buzzed with quiet tension. Security guards had been doubled. Lawrence had personally overseen every camera angle and sensor placement before sunrise. Anna wasn't allowed more than 10 feet from him. She didn't argue. Over breakfast, she pushed scrambled eggs around her plate, not eating. Lawrence sipped coffee, eyes never leaving the window. "They're watching us," Anna said softly. "They won't get close again," he replied. "I'll make sure of it." Anna hesitated, then spoke. "I think I know where Ethan hid something. Something important." Lawrence set down his cup. "Where?" She looked up. "The game room. The one we weren't supposed to talk about." He frowned. "Game room? It's not in the blueprints. Ethan said your father built it for hide and seek when he was little. It's under the old stables. There's a door hidden behind the tack wall." Lawrence blinked. He hadn't thought about the stables in years. After their renovation, Clarissa had turned them into a storage facility for unused furniture and seasonal decorations. Without wasting another second, they drove to the stables in Lawrence's black SUV, followed by 2 security cars. Daniel met them there, already sweeping the grounds. The air was damp, heavy with morning dew and dust. The scent of wood polish and old hay lingered faintly. Inside, Anna led them past antique trunks and dress racks, to a corner lined with saddle racks and wooden pegs. She counted the pegs carefully, then pushed the 5th one. A click sounded. The wall creaked open an inch. Lawrence stepped forward, heart pounding. They entered a narrow hallway. Lights flickered on automatically old bulbs, probably untouched in decades. The corridor led down a slope and opened into a chamber the size of a classroom. The walls were painted with mural space battles, jungle scenes, castles. In the center stood a dusty table with board games and toy pieces scattered like time had frozen mid-play. Anna walked to a metal locker in the corner. He said if anything happened to him, I should come here, that this was the only place Clarissa didn't know about. She pulled it open. Inside was a shoebox wrapped in duct tape. Lawrence took it gently, peeled back the layers, and opened the lid. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Ethan and Anna smiling on the dock. Ethan standing beside Clarissa except in one photo, his smile didn't reach his eyes. There were also documents, insurance printouts, copies of emails. One was a letter from Ethan, written in shaky handwriting. "If you're reading this, something went wrong. Aunt Clarissa keeps whispering to someone on the phone. I think she's planning something. I'm scared, but I'm going to hide this so someone finds it if I can't say it." Lawrence sat down, the box in his lap. His throat tightened. "He knew," he whispered. Daniel leaned in, studying the contents. "This is gold, all of it. It corroborates the insurance angle, and it shows premeditation from Ethan's own words." Anna sat beside her father, watching his hands tremble slightly as he lifted the letter again. "I should have seen it, all of it." "He didn't blame you," Anna said gently. "He tried to protect me. You gave us the kind of life we only dreamed of. It wasn't your fault she used it against you." Lawrence looked at her, seeing in her something far older than 10 years. Resilience, wisdom, a quiet fire. "We'll take this to the authorities today," Daniel said. "But we can't do it quietly anymore. She'll know we're coming." "She already does," Lawrence said, his voice steady now. "She sent Navarro. That means she's running out of time." Back at the house, Daniel scanned and encrypted every document. The audio from the bear was digitized and placed into secure cloud storage. Lawrence contacted a forensic analyst to examine Clarissa's email trails. They found deleted drafts, search history related to crash simulation software, transfer instructions to offshore accounts. "She wasn't just killing for money," Daniel murmured. "She was planning to vanish." By evening, the district attorney had been briefed. A task force was forming, but Clarissa was already ahead. That night, Anna's phone received a text. "Unknown. Do you think your new daddy will protect you forever? He didn't even notice when I walked past his office today. Anna froze, showing it to Lawrence. He stared at the message, then turned to Daniel. Find her, now. Every camera was reviewed. At 2:43 p.m., a woman in a large sun hat and sunglasses had walked up the back driveway, lingered near the guest house, then vanished into the trees. Lawrence felt ice in his veins. She was here, today. Daniel was already on the phone. Double security, lock every gate, no one in or out without my clearance. Anna's hands shook. Lawrence held them firmly. You're safe now, he said, but it sounded hollow, even to him. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. She curled beside her father on the couch, bear clutched tight, eyes wide open. She won't stop, will she? Lawrence looked out the window into the darkness. No, he said, but neither will we. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. Inside, a father and daughter sat in silence, bracing for the storm still coming. At dawn, the Maddox estate was a fortress. Armed security patrolled the grounds. Drones buzzed overhead, and every entrance was sealed with biometric locks. Inside, Lawrence stood at the center of the control room, eyes fixed on a rotating feed of surveillance footage. She's getting desperate, Daniel said beside him, arms crossed. Sending that text to Anna wasn't just a threat, it was a mistake. She let us know she's still nearby. Lawrence turned, voice low. So let's use that. Let's make her think she still has the upper hand. Anna entered with a bowl of cereal, eyes heavy from little sleep. She took a seat beside the control panel, one hand gripping Mr. Paws. Are we doing it today? Lawrence nodded. We're setting a trap. Daniel outlined the plan. We'll leak false information, make it look like we're moving Anna to a safe house upstate. We'll even fake a departure. If Clarissa's watching, she'll try to intercept her. That's when we move. And me? Anna asked. You'll be here, in the panic room, monitored and guarded. Anna frowned. She won't come for me if I'm not alone. Lawrence kneeled in front of her. We're not taking that chance. But I want to help. He hesitated, then looked at Daniel. Can we use a decoy? Daniel nodded. I know someone, child actor, about her size. If Clarissa takes the bait, we catch her. And Navarro. 2 hours later, the plan was in motion. News was leaked through carefully planted phone calls and messages from supposedly panicked staff. Anna Maddox, adopted daughter of billionaire Lawrence Maddox, would be relocated at noon for her safety. A black SUV was prepared, surrounded by actors posing as federal escorts. The decoy girl wore Anna's hoodie and held a replica of Mr. Paws. Meanwhile, Anna waited inside the panic room, an underground chamber layered in steel and stone. There were no windows, only cameras and screens. She sat beside a bodyguard, chewing her lip as footage played across the wall. Anything? She asked. Not yet. Daniel's voice crackled through the speaker. On screen, the SUV pulled out of the estate, turning down the tree-lined road. For minutes, nothing happened. Then a black sedan fell into view. She's on the hook, Daniel muttered. Lawrence watched from the surveillance van stationed 2 miles away. Don't intercept yet. Let's see where she takes the bait. The SUV continued through rural backroads, eventually turning into a narrow detour by the forest edge. The sedan followed, closer now. At the bend, the SUV slowed part of the plan. Suddenly, the sedan accelerated, cutting in front. From it stepped Navarro, holding a silenced pistol. Out of the car, he barked, yanking the back door open. The decoy screamed. Navarro grabbed her arm. In a flash, the area exploded into motion. FBI agents emerged from the trees, guns drawn. Navarro froze, but it was too late. Drop your weapon, Daniel shouted, charging forward. Navarro hesitated, then tried to flee. 2 shots rang out non-lethal. Navarro collapsed, shoulder bleeding. Lawrence stepped out of the van, walking slowly toward the scene. Where's Clarissa? He asked. Navarro spat blood. She's smarter than you think. Back at the estate, Anna paced. Why isn't anyone saying anything? The bodyguard checked the monitor. They got Navarro. No sign of Clarissa. She won't stop, Anna whispered. She'll come here. She wants me gone. The bodyguard's radio buzzed. Lockdown status, critical. Repeat. Lockdown status, critical. Suddenly, all screens went black. Anna's eyes widened. No. The panic room lights flickered. The bodyguard drew his weapon. From behind the walls, a hissing sound started gas. "Get behind me," he yelled. Anna stumbled back, clutching the bear. Above ground, sirens blared. Daniel's phone lit up. Gas breach in the panic room. Lawrence's heart froze. Anna. They raced back in armored SUVs. As they arrived, smoke was pouring from a basement vent. "Seal the outer chamber," Daniel barked. "Ventilate now." In the panic room, the gas began to clear. Anna coughed violently, eyes watering. The bodyguard had slumped forward, unconscious. Through the haze, a shadow emerged. Clarissa, wearing a black coat, mask, and gloves. In her hand a small injection device. "You were always the clever one," she said coldly. "Too clever." Anna backed away, bumping into the wall. "They know. They have everything. No jury will believe a child over me," Clarissa snarled. "Not when you're gone." She lunged. But as she did, a sharp clicking echoed from the bear's chest. Clarissa froze. Lawrence's voice came through a tiny speaker, amplified across the room. "Every word, every breath. You're being recorded, Clarissa." The walls lit up. Red lights activated. Emergency steel doors locked into place. From the corner, 2 FBI agents burst Ingus masks on. Clarissa spun to flee but was tackled instantly. Lawrence ran into the room seconds later, ignoring the stinging smoke. "Anna!" She coughed but stood up, arms reaching for him. He held her tight. Daniel appeared beside them, voice grim. "We got her. It's over." Clarissa was cuffed, screaming, "You'll regret this. You think the board will back you when they see the news? You're nothing without me." Lawrence looked at her, jaw tight. "I was nothing with you." He turned back to Anna. "You saved yourself. You saved Ethan. You saved me." She clung to him silently, the bear between them. Outside, the rain began to fall soft, steady, cleansing. The storm had passed. But justice was only just beginning. 3 days after Clarissa's arrest, the Maddox estate remained under heavy guard. News vans lined the outer perimeter, their satellite dishes aimed at the front gates, hungry for any glimpse of the family at the center of the scandal that had rocked the city. Inside, the atmosphere had changed. Quieter, still tense, but no longer haunted by shadows. The fear was being replaced slowly by clarity. Anna sat at the kitchen island, stirring a mug of cocoa with her pinky. Across from her, Lawrence was on his 3rd cup of black coffee. He hadn't slept much. The past 72 hours had been a whirlwind: lawyers, media statements, press conferences. But none of that weighed on him more than the sight of Anna's quiet eyes. "How are you holding up?" he asked. She shrugged, still stirring. "Everyone keeps asking that. I don't really know what it means." "It means, how are you feeling?" She looked up. "Like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop." He nodded. "I know that feeling." Daniel entered from the hallway, dropping a thick folder on the table. "Navarro's talking." Lawrence leaned forward. "What did he give us?" "Everything. He kept a journal, time, stamped entries, meeting places, payments. He confirmed Clarissa started planning the insurance scam the month after the adoption finalized." Anna looked up sharply. "She never wanted us, just the money." Daniel nodded grimly. "She pitched it to Navarro as a retirement solution. Fake an accident, collect the payout, disappear offshore. She would have gotten away with it," Lawrence muttered, voice low, "if Anna hadn't stood up." Daniel glanced at Anna. "They offered her a deal." Lawrence bristled. "Number." "Relax," Daniel said. "She turned it down, said she'd fight the charges, thinks she can win in court." Anna rolled her eyes. "Even now, she thinks people will believe her." "She's banking on sympathy," Daniel said. "Media manipulation, twisting the narrative. But we've got too much evidence, and Navarro's testimony seals it." Lawrence opened the folder, flipping through photos and transcripts. One entry stood out. Navarro had written, "Clarissa said he only adopted the kids for image, that he'd never notice if one was gone." Lawrence stared at the line for a long time. "She was wrong," Anna whispered. He reached across the table and took her hand. "I want to testify," she said suddenly. Lawrence blinked. "Anna, that's a lot." "I have to," she insisted. "She needs to hear my voice. She needs to know I'm not scared of her anymore." Daniel nodded slowly. If you're sure, we can arrange it. She'll be at the preliminary hearing in 2 weeks. Outside, the clouds broke. The estate's front lawn shimmered under sudden sunlight. That afternoon, Lawrence took Anna to Ethan's grave, a private plot in the garden, beneath the old oak where the boy used to read comic books on summer afternoons. Anna knelt and placed a small toy spaceship beside the marker. I told you I'd protect him, she said softly. I just didn't think it would be like this. Lawrence stood behind her, hands in his pockets. He'd be proud of you. She looked up. He was the brave one. You were both brave, Lawrence said. But you were the one who spoke when no one would believe you. That takes something else. She stood and leaned against him. Do you think he knew how much I loved him? I know he did. They stood there in silence for a long time. Later that evening, Lawrence met with his legal team. Lawsuits had already been filed: insurance fraud, attempted murder, endangering a minor. Clarissa would face federal charges. The Maddox name would be scrutinized. But the truth was now public. Lawrence had released the audio recording, the email, and the journal entries. There was no spinning this. In the days that followed, letters began arriving. Hundreds. From other adopted children. From parents. From strangers. One read, "Your daughter reminded me of my own granddaughter. Thank you for protecting her." Another said, "Justice doesn't always come fast, but when it comes through the voice of a child, the world listens." Anna read some aloud at dinner. Others she tucked into a scrapbook labeled, "The Truth Matters." Each day, she seemed a little stronger. A little more like the child Clarissa had tried to erase. One night, Lawrence found her in the library, curled up with Mr. Paws and a book on astronomy. "What are you reading?" he asked. "Ethan's favorite," she said. "He used to say stars are like memories. They shine long after they're gone." He sat beside her. "What if they're not gone?" She looked up. "What if the people we love never really leave?" he continued. "What if they live in every decision we make, every time we choose courage over silence?" Anna nodded slowly. "Then he's everywhere." Lawrence smiled. "Exactly." That night, before she went to bed, Anna turned back at her door. "Can I keep calling you Dad now?" she asked. He choked back emotion. "You never had to ask." She smiled, then closed the door gently. In the stillness that followed, Lawrence looked out at the night sky. The stars blinked faintly above the estate, soft and steady, and for the first time in what felt like years, he didn't feel lost. He felt anchored, by truth, by memory, and by a daughter's unshakable voice. The courtroom was colder than Anna expected, not from the air conditioning, but from the way people stared, some with curiosity, others with disbelief. The mahogany benches were filled with reporters, legal assistants, and a few familiar faces from the estate staff. A national news crew had secured a spot in the back. The case had become a symbol of betrayal, of wealth, of the fragility of trust. Anna sat between Lawrence and Daniel at the plaintiff's table. Her small hands gripped a folded piece of paper, the one Ethan had written. Her anchor. Across the room, Clarissa sat behind her legal team. She wore a navy blazer, pearls, and an expression carefully sculpted to appear wounded. Her eyes met Anna's for a brief, second blank, unreadable. Judge Meredith Price entered, a woman in her late 60s with a reputation for being sharp and unyielding. Court is now in session for the preliminary hearing of Clarissa Monroe Maddox, the bailiff announced. Clarissa's defense lawyer stood first. Your Honor, we maintain that Miss Monroe is innocent of all charges, and that the so-called evidence presented is circumstantial at best. Anna's stomach turned. She knew what was coming. They would try to make her look like a child seeking attention, a traumatized girl imagining conspiracies, but she had prepared for this. Daniel leaned in. Stay focused. Just be honest. The judge nodded toward the prosecutor. Call your first witness. Lawrence stood and walked to the stand. His presence filled the room not just because of his stature, but the weight of his reputation. Mr. Maddox, the prosecutor began, can you confirm your relationship to the defendant? She was my wife, Lawrence said. We were married for 8 months. And during that time, did she express concerns or frustrations regarding your adopted children? Lawrence hesitated, then said clearly, yes. She said they were charity cases, and that I was naive to trust them so quickly. Clarissa shifted in her seat. face tightening. The prosecutor continued. And were you aware that Miss Monroe requested to become the sole beneficiary of your children's life insurance policies? I signed the forms, Lawrence admitted. She told me it was for expediency in case of emergencies. I didn't question her motive. The defense tried to paint him as inattentive, too trusting. Lawrence didn't deny it. I failed to see who she really was, he said simply. Then came Anna's turn. When her name was called, every eye turned. She walked steadily to the stand, holding Mr. Paws under one arm and the folded letter in the other. After being sworn in, the prosecutor asked, Anna, can you tell the court what happened the weekend of the accident? Her voice was small but unwavering. Clarissa told us she wanted to surprise us. A weekend trip to the lake, just her and us. Was that unusual? Yes. She didn't spend much time with us. She recounted the car ride, the sudden swerving, the sound of Clarissa screaming even before anything was wrong. How Ethan was told to unbuckle his seatbelt. She told him to check under the seat. Then, the car hit the tree. Gasps filled the courtroom. The prosecutor asked, Did you find any other evidence of her intentions? Anna nodded, hands shaking slightly. I found an email. She printed it at the house. She pulled out the copy and handed it to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. The judge read it silently. Insurance is transferred. After this weekend at the lake, everything will be settled. Then Anna did something no one expected. She pulled out Mr. Paws. This is Ethan's bear. My uncle put a recorder in it for safety. The room tensed as the bailiff took the bear and pressed the play button. Clarissa's voice crackled through the speakers. If you say anything, I'll tell them the accident was your fault. Who do you think they'll believe? A black orphan or the billionaire's loving wife? Clarissa's face drained of color. The prosecutor let the silence stretch before asking, Anna, why did you keep all this? Because Ethan told me to, she whispered. He said, if anything happened, someone had to tell the truth. The defense tried to shake her, accused her of seeking attention, claimed the bear could have been tampered with, but Anna stayed calm. I didn't want attention, she said. I wanted my brother to be safe. And when I couldn't protect him, I wanted people to know what she did. The judge called a recess after her testimony. As Anna stepped down from the stand, the entire room rose to their feet in silence, not out of formality but respect. Outside the courtroom, the media surged. Anna clutched Lawrence's hand as they walked past the cameras. A reporter shouted, Anna, do you feel vindicated? She paused, then said simply, I feel heard. Back at the estate, Anna sat under the same oak tree where Ethan was buried. The letter rested in her lap. She read it again, every word etched into her heart. Daniel joined them. Judge Price is moving forward with full trial proceedings. Clarissa's bail was denied. Lawrence let out a long breath. It's finally beginning. Daniel smiled at Anna. You were incredible. She looked up, eyes steady. I wasn't scared of her anymore. As dusk fell, the wind picked up, the leaves whispered above them, and Anna felt something settle inside her. Not peace, at least not yet, but something close. And for the first time in a long time, she believed the world was listening. A week after the preliminary hearing, the Maddox estate was quieter than it had been in months. The reporters had thinned out, the guards had eased their patrols, and for once, Anna could hear birdsong outside her window instead of camera shutters. Still, the silence felt temporary, like the air before a storm. Anna sat cross-legged on the library floor, sorting through a cardboard box labeled Ethan's stuff. It had been retrieved from the lake house, most of it water-damaged and warped, but some pieces had survived. Books, drawings, a flashlight shaped like a rocket. She ran her fingers over a drawing of the two of them on a hill under a bright yellow sun. Lawrence stepped inside quietly. He didn't speak, just watched her for a moment. He really believed in happy endings, she said finally. Lawrence knelt beside her. He believed in you. She looked up. I'm glad I told the truth, but sometimes it still feels like she wins. He furrowed his brow. How do you mean? Anna hesitated. Because she made us doubt everything. She made us scared in a place that was supposed to be safe. Lawrence put a hand on her shoulder. Then we take it back. We make it safe again. That afternoon, they began reclaiming the lake house. It had been closed off since the crash yellow tape still fluttered in the breeze across the driveway. The air inside was musty, with shadows hanging in every corner. But Anna was determined. She opened windows, lit candles, and scrubbed the sink while Lawrence tackled the broken banister Clarissa had once tripped over dramatically for sympathy. They worked in silence, not because they were avoiding the past, but because they were confronting it. In the guest room, Anna found the small wooden letterbox Ethan used to keep mission notes. Most were silly scraps. Don't forget bug spray. Ask Dad about aliens. But near the bottom, tucked behind the back panel, she found something else. A second letter, written in Ethan's bold, slanted handwriting. It read, "If I don't come back from the trip, and Anna does, tell her I knew she'd save us. I know she doesn't believe it yet, but she's braver than she knows." Anna froze. Tears welled up, not from sadness this time, but something deeper. A recognition of the bond that even Clarissa couldn't break. She handed the letter to Lawrence, who read it silently, jaw clenched. "He knew," he whispered. "He knew exactly who you were." They framed the letter and hung it by the fireplace before leaving that day. Not as a tribute to loss but to courage. Back at the estate, a new envelope had arrived. Daniel brought it to Lawrence's office, setting it gently on the desk. "It's from Clarissa's attorney." Lawrence opened it slowly. Inside was a typed letter, surprisingly brief. "To whom it may concern, my client insists she will prove her innocence and expose what she calls a manipulation by a desperate child and a grieving father. She has no intention of pleading guilty." Below the letter was a photograph Lawrence hadn't seen before. Clarissa, holding Ethan at a charity event, both smiling. But her grip on his shoulder was too tight, her smile too thin, a subtle warning like she was saying, "See, he was mine too." Lawrence shredded it without a word. Anna walked in a moment later, reading his expression instantly. "She's still trying to twist it. She always will," he replied. "But the world doesn't believe her anymore." She approached the desk. "What if she's right about one thing?" He looked up. "What if I am desperate? Desperate for people to believe us. Desperate to make sure no one else gets hurt like we did." He stood and walked around the desk, kneeling in front of her. "Desperation isn't weakness, Anna. It's the fire that drives change. It's what made you speak when no one listened." She met his eyes. "Then I want to do more." "More?" "I want to start something. A foundation. For kids like us. For anyone who's afraid to speak up." Lawrence blinked, stunned but not surprised. "I'll fund it," he said without hesitation. She smiled. "I already named it." He raised a brow. Ethan's voice. That evening, they sat together drafting the mission statement. Anna insisted on writing it herself. "We believe truth matters, even when it's inconvenient. Especially then, we believe in listening to children, believing survivors, and protecting those who can't yet protect themselves. This isn't about revenge. It's about restoration. About making sure silence never wins again." Lawrence added only one line at the end. "Founded by Anna Maddox, survivor and truth teller." Within days, the media caught wind of it, not as a scandal but as a story of resilience. Donations poured in, letters of support. Parents who had doubted their own children apologized in handwritten notes. Survivors found their voice again. And through it all, Anna remained steady. One night, after a long meeting with lawyers, donors, and architects for the new foundation center, she climbed into bed and stared at the ceiling. Lawrence appeared at the door. "You good?" She nodded. "Just thinking." "About what?" "That someday, when people say my name, they won't just think about what happened to me. They'll think about what came after." He stepped inside. "They already do." She smiled softly, eyes closing. "Good night, Dad." "Good night, Anna." And in the silence that followed, as the estate drifted to sleep under a canopy of stars, the legacy of a boy's courage and a girl's voice took root not in tragedy, but in hope. And hope, at last, was louder than fear. The first day of Clarissa's trial arrived under gray skies and a hush of tension that wrapped the city courthouse like a veil. Reporters swarmed the steps in waves, their cameras clicking in bursts, their microphones reaching like hands through the crowd. Inside, the grand chamber was already filled when Lawrence and Anna walked in, escorted by federal marshals and Daniel close behind. No longer merely witnesses or survivors, they were now symbols of a deeper reckoning of trust broken and truth clawed back into the light. Anna wore a navy dress with a small gold pin in the shape of a star, on her collar Ethan's favorite. She held her head high, even as whispers followed her down the aisle. Lawrence had insisted she wasn't obligated to return for the trial's full duration, but she had looked him straight in the eye and said, "I need to see this through, all of it." Clarissa sat at the defense table with her attorney, poised and polished, as if she were attending a charity gala instead of facing charges of conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and child endangerment. Her eyes never once strayed toward Anna. It was as if the girl didn't exist. But Anna wasn't there to be seen. She was there to be heard. The prosecution opened with force. They presented the case in two parts. First, the fraud-ho Clarissa manipulated insurance policies, falsified documents, and orchestrated the illusion of a tragic accident. Then, the darker intent, the calculated decisions that led to Ethan's death and Anna's near escape. The evidence came like waves. The email. "The insurance is in my name now. This trip will handle everything." The audio. Clarissa's own voice, seething with venom, threatening a child. The testimony, from Lawrence, from Daniel, and from the forensic experts who reconstructed the crash. Clarissa's defense tried to reframe everything. A misunderstood woman, they claimed. A wife caught in the complexities of wealth and family dynamics. They alleged the recording was edited, the email fabricated, that Anna was confused, traumatized, and perhaps coached. Anna took the stand on the third day. She walked up calmly, gripping Mr. Paws not as a crutch, but as a companion. "Anna," the prosecutor began gently, "do you remember the first time you felt afraid of Clarissa?" She nodded. "It wasn't the accident. It was before. She started saying things to Ethan when no one else was around, telling him he was lucky, that no one would believe him if he complained." The prosecutor asked, "Why didn't you tell anyone then?" "Because I didn't think anyone would believe me either." There it was again, simple, quiet truth. It didn't need theatrics. It didn't need volume. "And now?" the prosecutor asked. Anna looked at Clarissa, her voice unwavering. "Now I don't care if you believe me, because I know what happened, and so does Ethan." During cross-examination, Clarissa's attorney tried to rattle her. "You claim to remember conversations perfectly from months ago?" "Yes," Anna answered, "because they never stopped playing in my head." "Isn't it true you resented Miss Monroe? That she tried to discipline you?" "Unopposed. I resented being afraid in my own home." Lawrence sat in the gallery, his jaw tight, fists clenched on his lap. Clarissa remained impassive, her mask unbroken. But cracks were beginning to show. When Navarro was called to testify, the courtroom shifted. He appeared in cuffs, heavily guarded, and spoke with a mixture of bitterness and resignation. "She paid me to plan the crash. I was supposed to make sure the car slid off the road. She wanted it to look like a mistake." And the children?" the prosecutor pressed. "She said the girl would survive. She didn't care about the boy." Gasps echoed. Lawrence felt the breath leave his lungs. Anna's shoulders shook, but she didn't cry. She squeezed the bear and stared forward. The defense tried to paint Navarro as a liar, self-interested, seeking a reduced sentence. But the prosecution followed with evidence. Clarissa's wire transfers, security footage of their meetings, and forensic trails leading from her devices to the burner phones. It was airtight. Still, the trial wasn't over. Clarissa herself was called to testify. She took the stand with practiced grace. "I've been misunderstood," she began. "I loved those children. I only wanted to protect them. The pressure of being a public figure, of being married to a man like Lawrence was overwhelming." She turned to the jury. "Have you ever felt trapped by a role you didn't ask for? It was calculated, every word, every expression. But it was too late. The evidence had spoken louder." After her testimony, Anna leaned over to Lawrence and whispered, "She still thinks this is about her." He nodded. Narcissists always do. By the end of the second week, the prosecution rested. The jury was sent into deliberation. Lawrence, Anna, and Daniel returned to the estate to wait. The quiet was thicker this Timino, fearful, but taut with expectation. On the third morning, the call came. Verdict reached. They returned to the courthouse. The jury filed in, faces unreadable. Judge Price asked the question, "On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find the defendant?" The forewoman stood, guilty. On the charge of insurance fraud, guilty. On the charge of child endangerment, guilty. Each word fell like a gavel unto itself. Clarissa didn't flinch. She simply stared forward, unmoving, unreadable to the last. Sentencing would come later. But justice, at last, had spoken. Outside, as reporters shouted questions, Anna stood beside Lawrence and spoke calmly into a microphone. Today wasn't about revenge, it was about truth, and no child should have to fight this hard to be believed. The crowd fell silent. She turned and walked away, Mr. Paws in hand, Ethan's star on her collar, and a voice that, no matter what the world tried, could not be silenced. Morning sun filtered through the blinds in Lawrence's study as he sat behind his desk, sipping bitter coffee. Anna stood by the window, staring at the driveway where the media pool had retreated. The trial's verdict was just hours old, but the atmosphere felt heavier now, like the calm after a storm, when the world is still shaking. They might come back, Anna said quietly, with cameras, with questions. Lawrence set his cup down. Let them. We'll answer when it feels right. She turned, crossing her arms. They'll want more. About Ethan, about the foundation, about me. He walked over, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We control the narrative. We decide what we share. Anna exhaled. Still, it's hard. Her voice quavered momentarily. Every time someone asks about Clarissa, it's like I'm reliving it. Lawrence nodded. Healing isn't a straight line. It's messy, winding. But we're on our way. She looked at him. Promise. He smiled gently. I promise. They spent the morning drafting a statement for the press, careful yet authentic. They spoke about justice, about resilience, about the importance of trusting the unheard. They announced a small ceremony at the lake house to commemorate Ethan and to officially launch Ethan's Voice Foundation. It would be intimate family, close friends, a few supporters, no cameras. By midday, reporters started trickling back, eager for sound bites. They hovered outside the gate as Lawrence and Anna emerged, walking side by side but not speaking. The press hungry readied their mics. A freelance journalist shouted, Anna, how does it feel to win? Anna paused, took a breath, and looked straight at the camera. It's not a win, she said softly. It's a new beginning. Lawrence nodded approvingly. That was the only statement needed. They walked to the SUV, cameras chasing them, before heading toward the lake house, once the site of tragedy, now slated for renewal. The drive was silent except for the soft hum of tires on asphalt. Anna stared out the window, clutching Mr. Paws. She thought of Ethan, the way he laughed, his silly drawings, his voice asking questions about stars and rockets. At the lake house, the place felt different. The yellow tape was gone. Paint covered the crash scar. New furniture stood ready. Volunteers assembled the bronze plaque embossed with a quote Anna picked. Listen, believe, act. Lawrence and Anna stepped onto the wooden dock. The lake was glass smooth. A single canoe glided by, leaving gentle ripples. Anna knelt and placed Mr. Paws alongside the plaque, then pulled out a small bucket of wildflower seeds. She scattered them around the base. For new life, she whispered. Volunteers joined in. The calm was healing. Afterward, they held a brief ceremony. Daniel spoke first about accountability. Sophia Bell read a passage from Ethan's letterbox. Lawrence closed by promising that Ethan's voice would champion truth for vulnerable children everywhere. Anna stood by his side, tears in her eyes, not of sadness, but of purpose. That evening, they returned to the estate. The house felt warmer, now echoes of hope replacing old fears. In the study, Lawrence lit a single candle for Ethan, beside the framed letter. Anna appeared behind him. Dad? He turned. Yes? She hugged him from behind. Thank you. He held her. Number, thank you. They stayed like that, silent and strong. Over the next few weeks, media attention softened. The trial became headline, then feature story, then memory. The foundation's website went live. Donations poured in from across the country. Families shared stories of children who had been ignored, dismissed, or silenced and found courage to speak. Anna began attending monthly meetings for the foundation. She listened to teens and younger kids. She heard about bullying, about abuse, about injustice. She shared her story, but more often, she let them speak first. She wanted them to know whose voice mattered. Lawrence supported her from the background, but he was always there. In board meetings, in press interviews, beside her at every event. He found a balance between letting her lead and protecting her innocence. One afternoon, he entered her room to find her at the desk, scrutinizing a letter from a school counselor in Ohio. It described a 9-year-old girl who had been accused falsely of lying by her teacher and punished severely when she spoke out. Anna looked up. They wrote to ask what they could do, what Ethan's voice might help with. Lawrence smiled. "And will you help?" She nodded firmly. "Of course." That night, as they sat reading letters by the fireplace, Anna turned to Lawrence. "Did you ever think it would lead to this?" she asked. He shook his head slowly. "I never imagined it would take us here. But I know where it comes from. From you. From that moment you stood in the church and said her name." Anna swallowed. "I wish Ethan could see." "He does," Lawrence replied. "Every time you stand up. Every time someone listens because of you, he sees." Anna hugged Mr. Paws tight. "Then I'll keep going." The next morning, they boarded a helicopter for a visit to Cincinnati of the first pilot program for the foundation. As the city skyline shrank beneath them, Anna looked out at the spinning houses and roads. She thought about fear and courage, about loss and purpose, and she leaned forward smiling, because this wasn't just an ending. It was the start of something much, much bigger. A week after their Cincinnati visit, the pilot program for Ethan's Voice Foundation officially opened. The site was a renovated former community center in a neighborhood filled with red brick schools and old oak trees. The ceremony was small families, local educators, community leaders, but the energy was electric. Anna stood in the center of the newly painted room, where cheerful murals depicted stars, rockets, and diverse children holding hands. Her voice echoed steady. "Too often, brave things are quiet, a whisper unheard. Today, we gather to change that, to hold space for voices silenced too long." Parents hugged their children, some wiped tears. A 9-year-old boy raised his hand, shy. Anna knelt beside him and asked his name, Joshua. He said he was afraid to tell the truth at school. Anna listened, then promised to help. That promise became tangible in the room's hush. Later, at Lawrence's side, she watched a girl read a poem about a shadow that wouldn't go away. The girl's voice trembled but carried hope. When she finished, Anna swelled with pride. That was why they'd done it. The next day brought challenge. A national tabloid publisher released a scathing article about Clarissa, suggesting that Ethan's voice was merely a publicity stunt funded by an aggrieved billionaire. Social media lit up, half supportive, half skeptical. Anna watched the headlines pop up. Her stomach dropped, but she refused to retreat. Lawrence sat beside her in the study. He looked weary. "What happens when they fight us in public?" She folded the article. "We answer with more truth, with more stories like Joshua's, with voices, not noise." That evening, they released a video, Anna speaking directly to camera. No fancy editing, just her, Mr. Paws in view, the schoolyard mural behind. "I know their words can hurt," she said softly. "But I also know what's stronger. The truth. Your voice. And why we're here. To build trust that listening matters." The video had only tens of thousands of views at first, but then friends shared it. Teachers shared it. It went viral not because of drama but authenticity. Comments flowed. "My daughter said the same. Thank you. I believed until your voice lent me courage." Anna read them aloud at dinner, tears in her eyes. Meanwhile, the legal battle intensified. Clarissa's appeal loomed. Her team insisted she'd appeal the verdict, claim insanity, rewrite the narrative. Anna learned of it late one afternoon in Daniel's office. He said calmly, "We expected it. We'll face it. But now, there is a center supporting thousands of kids, saying the same thing." That night, Anna couldn't sleep. She wandered into Ethan's old room. The shelves were emptier now, but still held a few treasure she's drawings, a model spaceship, the framed letter he wrote. She pressed her palm against the wood of his bedpost, breathing in memories of bedtime stories and secret giggles under the blanket. Lawrence found her by the window. "Up?" She nodded. "Just thinking about him." He stood beside her quietly. After a moment, he said, "He impacts the world every day, Anna. Through you." She turned to look at him, tears in her eyes. "I'm so tired, Dad." He hugged her. "Me too, but sometimes, the bravest thing is just showing up." The next morning, Anna returned to Cincinnati to attend the Foundation's first restorative justice workshop. She spoke to a group of middle school students, some survivors, some allies, about courage and speaking truth. At the back, a tall school counselor watched with respect. She approached afterward, handing Anna a notebook filled with stories she collected from students who felt invisible. "Your message gave them permission to speak," the counselor said. Anna closed her eyes. "That's all I ever wanted." Back home, Lawrence found a message glowing on his phone. "A father in Texas wants to establish a chapter. Can we send materials?" He forwarded it to the team. Then he saw Anna approaching with Mr. Paws tucked under her arm and a new sketch. A logo idea for another Centera tree branching upward from a child's hand. She said shyly, "What do you think?" He smiled wide. "I think it's beautiful." They spoke of Kansas City, Atlanta, Detroit, places where stories of silenced children echoed. With each center, they'd bring community dialogue, support groups, legal advocacy. That evening, during a guest lecture at a local school, Anna spoke about Ethan just once, softly, then shifted to focus on survivors all over the country. Her words resonated. Later, a teacher approached her, whispering, "My student had written about fearing punishment if she spoke up. She gave me your card before she left class." Anna's voice cracked with emotion. This was real. Weeks passed. Then came confirmation. Clarissa's appeal was denied. Sentence upheld. Justice held. Anna carried the news home and whispered into the empty house, "We won again." At dinner, letters lay across the table, loan from a mother in Pennsylvania, who said her daughter had been bullied and punished for telling a teacher, and that now they had men's and women's support lines in their small town. Another from a grandmother in Minnesota said she enrolled in counseling to better listen to her granddaughter's fears. Anna felt buoyed by every word, and that night, she dreamt of Ethanos, a shining star, orbiting above, smiling proudly as children across the country lifted their own voices. In the quiet dawn, she woke and carried Mr. Paws to the window. She looked out at the soft glow of the new day. And for the first time since everything began, she felt unstoppable. Because healing, she realized, wasn't just personal. It was a movement, and it had only just begun. Autumn painted the world in gold and crimson by the time Ethan's Voice Foundation expanded into Denver. The new community center sat among leafy streets, old brick storefronts, and families who bore silent scars. Anna stepped into the refurbished gymnasium-turned-group room, breathing in the scent of fresh paint and possibility. Sunlight filtered through stained glass windows depicting children reaching toward stars. She was here to lead the opening ceremony, side by side with Lawrence and the local chapter director, Rosa Martinez, a former teacher turned advocate. Parents and kids buzzed with hope. Volunteers set out cushions, snacks, and journals for each attendee. Anna opened with a simple question. How many of us have something to say, but didn't know who would listen? Dozens of shy hands rose slowly. She smiled gently and spoke softly. "Today, we begin with listening." That afternoon, in an activity called Whisper Lines, children drew hearts and spoke phrases like, "My feelings matter," and "I am not alone." A teenage girl read aloud about being ignored when she tried to tell the principal about bullies. The room grew still. Anna nodded. "Your voice changes things," she said. Outside, Lawrence watched quietly with Rosa as parents gathered for brunch. Many had tears in their eyes, not of sadness, but of release. One father spoke, his voice thick with emotion. "My son came home saying he didn't believe in truth anymore. 2 days ago, he said it changed again." He looked at Anna. "Thank you." Anna turned to him and said simply, "He's seen, I promise." That evening, Lawrence and Anna returned to the estate. The front door stood open as if waiting. Inside, the house no longer felt cold. Warm lights glowed in the hallway, casting long shadows that felt comfortable, not foreboding. They walked silently past Ethan's room now, a pulsing heart rather than an empty shell, and entered the library. On a side table sat a photo of Lawrence, Anna, Ethan, and Daniel at the lake house, smiling. On the mantel above hung the framed journal entry where Ethan had predicted Anna's courage. Anna sank into the armchair. Mr. Paws rested on her lap. Lawrence settled across from her. He broke the silence. Sometimes I wonder if all of this, every foundation, every center was too much. She looked at him, brow furrowed. Because we're trying to heal a wound in more than just us? He reached over, taking her hand. Yes, because this feels bigger than any one family. She squeezed his hand. But it's not too much. It's exactly what we were given to rise for. He leaned back, thinking. I've been asked if the foundation should expand into Washington, D.C., New Orleans, Miami. We could reach thousands. Anna nodded. We should, but carefully. He raised an eyebrow. Meaning? She exhaled. We need more voices, more community leaders. Not just us leading, but them leading. We can't be the face everywhere. Lawrence smiled, wise beyond your years. They sat together as dusk filled the room. Anna's voice grew soft. Sometimes, Dad, I miss him. She gestured toward the empty room down the hall. Not just Ethan. The way things were before they changed. Lawrence stood and walked to his daughter. He hemmed his shirt at the cuff softly. I miss that too. He hugged her close. But what we lost has become what we protect. Every child whose voice is still waiting to be heard, that's his legacy. Anna laid her cheek on his chest. Then I hope they remember him well. He will be, Lawrence whispered. In every center, every word, every brave step forward. They remained there a long time, tethered by grief and purpose, bound by truth and family. Weeks later, Rosa called with good news. Denver's second workshop had filled within 5 hours. Requests poured in for more programming, not just for children, but for adults learning how to listen, respond, and intervene. Rosa asked if Anna would co-host a training in early January. Anna agreed. Lawrence glimpsed a sparkle in her eyes' purpose. Renewal. He realized then that Ethan's voice was no longer just a foundation. It had become a movement, a ripple turning into a wave. As winter prepared to arrive, he looked at Anna and felt pride bloom in his chest, not because she was his daughter, but because she carried his son's light forward. And somewhere above the estate, the stars shone, unblinking proof that memory, courage, and truth can create constellations that guide others toward healing. That night, Lawrence whispered into the darkness, "We're doing the right thing." Anna replied from beside him, "Because he believed I would." Winter arrived with brittle air and early dusk, blanketing the Maddox estate in quiet reflection. Inside, Anna sat by the hearth with a stack of letter-send-written notes from around the country. Each one spoke of a child who'd spoken out, a parent who'd finally listened, a community changed. She read a passage aloud. My granddaughter started writing again. She used to hide her notebook, afraid of being told she lied. Now she draws stars. Anna smiled at Lawrence. These are stars, Dad. Each one lights someone up. He leaned into her side. This foundation is more than legacy now. It's legacy that lives. He paused, but we're at a crossroads. Anna looked up. Which one? Lawrence gestured toward a framed map on the wall, marked with planned foundation chapters. We can expand. But there's pushback from local officials wary of outside influence, from skeptics who think we're playing hero. We need local leadership. We need a board that reflects the communities we serve. Anna nodded. We can't parachute in. We have to partner, empower, build bridges, then walk them. That afternoon, they began calling leaders from Milwaukee, Charlotte, Portland. Local advocates who had survived, had voices, had insight. Some answered with caution. Some with excitement. One, a former child advocate in Phoenix, invited Anna to speak in April. When the call ended, Anna exhaled. It works, doesn't it? Connecting from across towns. It's what he taught us, Lawrence replied. Truth travels farther when lifted by more voices. That weekend, Daniel delivered news. Clarissa's sentencing date was set. The public notice said 5 to 7 years for conspiracy and fraud, plus additional charges for child endangerment. Daniel reminded them it wasn't about vengeance, but formal reckoning. It ensures the law can protect others from someone like her, he said. Anna's smile was soft, but her eyes hardened into purpose. Justice for one is a lesson for many. That evening, she invited friends her school friends to the estate. They gathered around the dining table littered with steaming bowls of chili, cornbread, cinnamon apples. Clarissa felt like a distant memory. Here, real laughter bubbled as they talked about Dreams College, becoming teachers, starting art studios. After dessert, Anna handed each friend a blank journal. "Please," she said, "write what you'd want someone to hear." One friend slipped a note into Anna's hand. "Thank you for reminding me that truth is brave." Anna's voice caught. Their generation, she realized, understood in their own way. 2 days later, she flew to Phoenix to speak in a community youth forum. She shared stories of Ethan. Then she asked students to talk about times they felt invisible. A teenage girl with dreadlocks described being the only black student in advanced math class, feeling overlooked until a teacher began listening. She ended, "Now, I tutor kids younger than me, because my voice was heard." Anna watched, tears brimming. "That's the ripple," she told the audience. "It doesn't stop you, just keep passing it forward." Back home, Lawrence organized a small retreat for the new advisory board. Representatives from 5 pilot chapters gathered at the estate. They shared culture-specific healing methods using art, story circles, mentorship. Each had a star-shaped paper cutout pinned to their jacket labeled with their town. When Anna spoke during the final session, she said, "We're guiding each other. I don't want us to lead alone. I want us to stand together from Cincinnati to Phoenix to Milwaukee. Let Ethan's light become constellations." Silence followed. Then applause, not for a speech, but for shared purpose. That night, Anna stood outside under the crisp December sky, Mr. Paws in hand. She looked up at the stars. She thought about bridge building, community voices, local leaders. She thought about Ethan's belief in her. Lawrence joined her. He pointed to Orion etched against deep black. "See his belt?" he said softly. "That's 3 stars, working perfect together. Kind of like our chapters." Anna smiled up at him. "Then ours are forming a whole sky." He wrapped her in an arm. "And together, we'll guide others through the darkness." They stayed, side by side, beneath a sky filled with distant lights. Constellations of trust, courage, and truth stretched wide, and they were just beginning to chart them across the country. Winter thawed into early spring as dawn warmed the Maddox estate. The garden behind the house stirred with fresh shoots. Inside, Anna stood by the large bay window, looking over the grounds with Mr. Paws tucked beside her. Her eyes were soft, contemplative, even hopeful. Lawrence entered with a stack of letters and brochures. "Seattle just sent a request for a themed play program," he announced. "One based on storytelling and role-play, helping kids articulate experiences they don't even know how to name yet." Anna turned toward him, a delighted smile spreading. "Exactly. Play can bridge silence." He nodded, placing the materials on the table. "They want you to lead the pilot session. End of next month." She exhaled slowly. "It's far but meaningful." He looked at her soon with pride. "You'll go." That afternoon, Anna reopened Ethan's voice design board in the study. Pins connected Seattle to the East Coast network. Each link represented a story, a family, a partnership. She tapped a pin near Cincinnati. "Our first branch. Mama Rosa and her team, they're strong." She paused at a blank region in the map, then placed a new blue pin labeled Seattle Play Project. She whispered, "Here we go." Days later, Anna flew west to Seattle. She landed under overcast skies and salty air. At the community center, children greeted her with handmade banners. "Welcome, Anna. Let our voices play." Emily, the local chapter led, a warm woman with bright eyes, showed Anna around. "I've seen kids freeze when trying to talk about what happened," Emily explained. "But in drama, in pretend, they find the words." Anna nodded, touched by the resonance. She joined a group of 10 children, ages 8 to 12, gathered for a first rehearsal of a voice play. "Lou," the theme, telling the truth when no one will listen. Anna guided them gently, inviting each to share a moment using puppets, props, or drawings. One boy used a puppet police officer to speak. "I was scared to ask for help." Another drew a prison cell of walls built by fear. They narrated through drama what they could not say in plain conversation. At the end, Anna invited them to collage their stories into a mural along the wallpaper cutouts of stars, words like courage, heard, safe. The room pulsed with color, emotion, release, quiet healing. Afterward, a local reporter asked Anna how it felt to see this in action. She leaned against the mural, gently brushing a ribbon. "It's everything Lincoln City needed," she replied. "It's not about me standing on stage, it's about children learning they matter, that their voice shapes the world." That night, she video called Lawrence. They sat in separate living rooms lit by lamps, miles apart, connected in purpose. He said softly, "You brought light." She blinked past tears. "We are breakthroughs." Weeks passed. In Seattle, the play program launched public performances with local family turnouts. Other cities soon asked to replicate. Ethan's voice expanded not by drama of headlines but by community-driven storytelling. Back home, spring transformed the estate. The gardens were bursting. At dusk, Anna sat by the oak where Ethan rested, Mr. Paws beside her. She held a letter. "Thank you for helping us find our voices," a note from a girl in Milwaukee who'd performed in their first play session. Anna read it slowly, feeling the warmth spread through her chest. In the twilight, Lawrence joined her with 2 mugs of cocoa. They listened to the soft hum of evening, to the distant crow of birds. He said, "She was brave to start this." Anna smiled, looking up. "Ethan taught me." He sighed heavy and full. "We've come far, and yet, there's more." She squeezed his hand. "We keep going." Weeks later, the annual meeting at headquarters brought together leaders from every branch: Denver, Phoenix, Cincinnati, Charlotte, Milwaukee, Seattle. Board members, local advocates, and survivors shared updates, challenges, dreams. At the close, Anna spoke about the importance of local voice leadership. "We come together not as saviors but as listeners, amplifiers, listeners again." She invited feedback, then passed the microphone. Mayoral representatives stood to pledge partnership. School districts signed on for pilot programs. Stories were shared. One child's poem read aloud about standing at the edge of water and finding courage to jump. Anna listened to them like each word was a drumbeat. She felt humble and hopeful. After the meeting, as volunteers wound down, Anna wandered into the unfinished wing of the center rooms awaiting transformation. She imagined painting walls with children's handprints, holding classes on journaling, releasing small night fireworks shaped like stars. Lawrence found her there. "It's quiet now," he said. Anna looked up. "Before it's full." He put his arm over her shoulder. "This is exactly what we meant by restoration. Building together." Inside, the center echoed faint with the sound of distant laughter from the main hall. That night, at the estate, Anna dreamt of stars scattering across a sky. Each was a let-reach, a voice speaking truth. She woke with Mr. Paws in hand, an idea blooming in her mind. In the morning, she presented a new initiative. Star Lettersa Pen Pal Network for children in different branches to write to each other, share stories, ask questions, and send drawings of bravery. Each letter stamped with the star logo. Each envelope a promise. Lawrence nodded, smiling wide. "Let's send our first package." They sealed letters to Cincinnati, Phoenix, Seattle, and beyond. That afternoon, volunteers packed bright envelopes. Anna signed each one, with courage from Ethan's voice. As they taped the final seal, the room buzzed with excitement and something bigger: connection. Because the foundation they built wasn't just about helps, it was about heart, trust, and star-shaped threads stretching around the country. And Anna knew was, spring stretched into summer, and summer would return to autumn, that they had set something in motion far more powerful than any one tragedy. They had created bridges of hope that might just change what it means to be heard. And that, she believed, was the true legacy. Summer had settled into a warm hum across the nation as Ethan's Voice Foundation expanded into Detroit. The new center, housed in a renovated brick schoolhouse, stood in a neighborhood marked by economic hardship, but rich in community grit and spirit. Anna arrived early, walking into the building that smelled of fresh paint, polished wood, and possibility. Inside the main hall, volunteers buzzed around setting up tables, placing storybooks, sticky notes, and markers labeled truth. The stage draped in fabric ribbed in navy and gold, the foundation's colors. Anna paused at the entrance, Mr. Paws tucked under one arm, watching the energy build. She chatted with Rosa Martinez from Denver, who'd flown in to lead her first training session for local educators. Rosa's warmth was familiar, a steady hand, a listening ear. Anna smiled and said, "We're growing faster than I ever imagined." Rosa nodded. "That means more lives, asking to speak, and more hands to help." At noon, the ribbon-cutting ceremony gathered parents, local leaders, journalists, and children who'd already enrolled in the inaugural workshop. Anna and Rosa cut the ribbons side by side. Children cheered. A choir sang a simple a cappella tune, "Let me be heard, let my heart be seen." The first step small but full of potential. The afternoon kickoff workshop began with an icebreaker called memory mapping. Children placed colored pins on a wall map, marking places where they'd felt safe and places where they had not. A young boy whispered, "I felt scared in 3rd grade." A girl scribbled, "No one listened," in shaky letters. The room stayed quiet, thoughtful. Anna spoke gently, "Your experiences are valid. You matter." Lawrence, visiting the center, watched from the back with quiet pride and a rising ache for the weight of all those voices, and for Ethan's memory echoing in each child. He caught Rosa's eye and nodded sometimes. No words are needed. Later that evening, Anna held a meeting with local volunteers. They shared challenges, distrust from some parents who saw the foundation as outside, cultural misunderstandings, funding gaps, even safety concerns. She listened with curious openness. Then she proposed new local councils groups drawn from community elders, youth mentors, teachers to guide the center's programs. "Trust isn't imported," she said. "It's built here." A woman named Miss Jenkins, a retired school librarian, raised her hand. "If this center is about being heard, we need to train our own listeners, not just children. We need listening circles in churches, community halls, on front porches." Anna nodded. "That's exactly right." Back at the estate that night, Anna unpacked after her trip. A letter from a mother in Detroit lay on the kitchen counter. "The center was the first place my daughter came home smiling," she said. For the first time, she felt safe. Lawrence entered carrying a tray of iced tea. He placed it beside her and asked softly, "How are you?" Anna took a deep breath, hopeful, but tired. He touched her shoulder. "You were leading today, but you can't carry every weight alone." "I know," she said, eyes distant. "But sometimes I feel that to honor Ethan, I have to keep going." He knelt beside her. "Honoring him doesn't mean you don't rest. It means you let others help carry the load." That night, Anna went through the journal entries she'd kept, meeting notes, letters from children, program ideas. She saw her own handwriting in tight loops, in bold outlines. She saw Ethan's words, forever guiding her. She realized she was changing not just others but herself. A knock came at the door. Daniel stood with a letter. "It's from the DA's office. Clarissa's sentencing had arrived. 6 years in federal prison. No early parole." Anna placed a tear-shaped bookmark at the phrase asterisk, "No early parole, a justice secured." The next morning, Anna woke to a gentle wind that carried jade-colored leaves across her window pane. She dressed quietly and made her way to Ethan's oak memorial. There, she found a note tucked into the bronze plaque. "Thank you for helping my mom know I mattered." Anna's breath caught. A volunteer had likely left it. But for a moment, it felt like a whisper from beyond. She pressed her palm to the bronze. "You mattered," she whispered back. Later that day, she flew to New York City to testify before a congressional advisory board on national child advocacy. Her speech was simple. She spoke of Anna from a decade ago, the insurance ruse, the betrayal and, then the fierceness of children's truth, and the power of listening communities. The room fell quiet. A congresswoman stepped forward, hand out, and said, "We'd like to work with Ethan's voice on policy recommendations. We need this." On the flight home, Anna stared at the night sky from her window seat. The cities below looked like stars pinned on velvet. She thought about Detroit, Seattle, Denver. She thought about the letters, the voices, the small ripples turning into tides. For the first time, she allowed herself hope, not just for the foundation, but for a future where children like Ethan and Anna, like any child, could speak and be heard. When she landed and stepped out into the warmth of dusk, Lawrence was there waiting. He pulled her close. "They listened," he said. She closed her eyes. "They are listening." They walked home quietly beneath streetlights. Mr. Paws held in her hand. And though they were just two people, they carried something larger, a legacy born of truth, of loss, of love and of voices that refused to be silenced. Summer shimmered back at the Maddox estate with warmth, golden light stretching across the gardens and the oak tree where Ethan rested. Anna worked at her desk, surrounded by free-form sketches, branches intertwining with stars, letter forms swirling toward open-mouth symbols for new chapters, new voices. Outside, footsteps approached. Lawrence entered with fresh apple pies from the kitchen, his way of saying, "I'm here." He laid a pie beside her sketchpad. "You've been quiet." Anna paused, finger tracing a star shape. "I've been thinking about roots." He nodded gently. "Tell me." She exhaled. "This foundation, it grows so fast. But roots take time. I don't want us to be here today, gone tomorrow. I want permanence." He leaned back in the chair. "Meaning?" She tapped the sketches. "I want to build physical space-safe houses, archives, youth-led community rooms, centers that belong to neighborhoods, not just us." He smiled, brimming with pride. "That's exactly what we need." In Cincinnati, Rosa Martinez received word that a former school auditorium was being donated to Ethan's voice. The community decided to transform it into a child-led media laba place where kids could record spoken word, produce podcasts, create safe stories. They asked Anna to attend the opening in September. Anna glanced at her calendar. The timing worked. They could combine the opening with a national advisory meeting for educators. Lawrence checked his emails first. Then he nodded. "We'll attend." Months later, crisp autumn colored the leaves in Cincinnati as Anna stepped into the renovated media lab. Inside, 20 kids greeted her, holding microphones and tablet cases, labeled with Ethan's voice logo. A mural of their star letters adorned a wall maps connecting branches with child-drawn designs. The energy buzzed with hope, voices humming under supervision, learning to tell their truths. Anna opened the ceremony with a promise. "This space belongs to you, to your stories." She invited a young girl to record her voice on a tiny recorder. The girl, shy, whispered, "I once reported a fight, but no one came. I thought they didn't care." Anna nodded gently. "Speak again," she said. The recorder heard it. A volunteer pressed play. Her voice echoed in rich clarity. "They didn't hear me, but I'm speaking anyway." Soft applause filled the room, not forced, not formal, but heartfelt. For the first time, the girl believed her voice mattered. Meanwhile, Lawrence stepped outside to join local media and educators. Recognition letter was awarded to the foundation by a local council member for service to youth, mental health, and empowerment. A community elder recited a poem written in star letters from a teen in Phoenix. Volunteers from Detroit and Seattle joined via video call. Each branch stood behind Anna as she accepted the honor. Back inside, Anna co-hosted a youth podcast session. Kids recorded themselves reading letters, aloud messages of survival, hope, resilience. One boy ended his segment with a whisper, "I believe Anna," and Ethan's voice. Anna smiled through tears. This was rooted, resonant. That night, at the hotel, Anna scrolled through star letters while Lawrence watched the city lights outside. She stopped at one from a child in Milwaukee. "I told my dad I got lost in the school hallway. He believed me. We found help together." The note ended with, "Because of you, I know that someone can hear me." Anna looked over. These letters, their roots. He came close and hugged her. That's the resonance of truth. When they arrived back home, winter was arriving early. Anna walked through the corridors at dusk, reading pinned names of new donors. Some children wrote beside their names, "I'm giving my art. I'm giving my time." Others, "In memory of my brother, in honor of my sister's voice." She realized the foundation wasn't just about her or Ethan, it had become communal memory. Collective healing. A constellation of stories. Downstairs, Daniel approached with news. A leading university offered to host a research fellowship on youth narrative empowerment, funded by the foundation. The board met next week to approve the scope. Anna nodded. She felt small beneath the weight of it, but also sturdy. The roots were firm. That weekend, she arranged a retreat at the lake house. Board members from 5 branches gathered around a bonfire. They shared challenges, survivor burnout, funding gaps, community skepticism, but they also shared laughter, fresh ideas, and solidarity. Under the night sky, Anna read aloud Ethan's letter. He believed she'd save us. They all spoke her name in unity. Lawrence added quietly, "We're rooted together now." Days later, Anna found a note slipped under her door. No signature. On the paper, "Your voice gave me a map to follow. Now I'm telling my own story as well." She reread it twice. Her chest tightened, warmth building from grief into purpose. That night, she lay in bed with Mr. Paws tucked beside her. The world felt big but not unfriendly. She closed her eyes, hearing distant laughter of children, murmurs of meetings, crackle of bonfire. Roots, resonance, truth. She whispered into the dark, "This is for you, Ethan." And in her heart, a constellation blinked with promise. The National Symposium in Washington, D.C., arrived like a tidal wave. The grand conference hall, all marble and muted gold, brimmed with policymakers, child welfare experts, educators, and national press. Anna sat backstage, Mr. Paws beside her, butterflies fluttering in her stomach. It was the largest event yet for Ethan's Voice Foundation, and the most visible. Every center representative was present. The outcome would shape policy and public perception across the country. Lawrence joined her just before she walked on. He bent down quietly. "You're not alone," he reminded her. "You carry thousands of voices, and you carry mine. You got this." She nodded firmly, searched his eyes, then stepped onto the stage with ease. Lights warmed her face. Anticipation stood electric in the air. She opened with a steady smile. "Yesterday, a girl in Detroit named Marisol asked me, 'How do I know if anyone will listen?' I told her, 'I start by listening. Then I invite others to listen. Then we change the world, little by little.'" The crowd murmured. Heads nodded. She shared Ethan's story briefly, poignantly, then shifted to the foundation's impact. She described children who used star letters to bridge isolation, teachers trained to respond rather than dismiss, communities creating listening circles in places like Milwaukee, Phoenix, Seattle, Denver, Detroit. A congresswoman leaned forward. She asked how Ethan's voice could inform national policy. Anna responded, "We need mandatory teacher training on student disclosure, national listening lines, safe schools protocols, and legal channels where children can report without fear. Start with legislation, then fund local leaders." Afterwards, policymakers approached with notebooks now open, now pens scribbling. Reporters asked for quotes. Experts invited collaboration. Anna answered graciously, guided by purpose. Backstage, behind curtains, Daniel hugged her. "You absolutely nailed it." As they left, a group of teenage youth ambassadors from various branches surrounded her. One girl from Cincinnati presented a small framed artwork, a constellation of stars, where each star represented a center. She said, "This is for Ethan's voice." Anna's chest tightened. Purpose became tangible. That night, Lawrence and Anna returned to the Maddox estate under autumn darkness. The house felt smaller than the day, warmer than the night. They lit candles by the fireplace and opened mugs of tea. Anna exhaled. "It's overwhelming sometimes, show many people want change." He laid a hand on hers. "It's good, but it means we must anchor well, keep our roots deep." She nodded, looking down at Mr. Paws. "I'm ready." Days later, the foundation received an email from the Department of Education, inviting collaboration on a national campaign for Youth Advocacy Awareness Month. They also received calls from several state governors, a sign that their influence was spreading beyond grassroots. At headquarters, Anna called a board meeting. They discussed sustaining integrity as they grew, guarding against bureaucracy and mission creep, ensuring survivors maintained leadership, and keeping listening central. Rosa suggested a new advisory committee composed of youth leaders from across chapters' Voices Council that would inform programming. Anna embraced it. They know better than we ever will what needs to be heard. That weekend brought personal closure. Anna visited the docks at Monroe Lake property with Mr. Paws and Ethan's framed letter. She scattered seeds at the water's edge and took a deep breath of lake air. It was where it had all gone wrong and where truth had taken root. She whispered, "For Ethan, for all who couldn't speak, we build bridges now." A gentle breeze lifted leaves across the water, carrying ripples outward. A month later, Anna returned to Seattle for a summit of all branch directors. Representatives wore star pins and shared their stories. Some had scaled their centers into local nonprofits. Some had introduced legislation. One girl from Phoenix started a storytelling podcast. Another from Detroit introduced listening sessions inside Juvenile Hall. They performed a reading of star letters from a cross-citious collage of voices. I survived. I was heard. I believe in change. When Anna walked on stage to close the summit, she looked out at the crowd united in visions of hope and justice. She said, "We began with one girl's voice at a funeral. Now, hundreds speak truth through these centers, but the work never ends. Every unheard child, every silenced memory or work is to listen, believe, act." The applause wasn't thunder-rouse, it wasn't casual. It was honest. It reverberated like wind through trees, steady and enduring. Returning to the estate at dusk, Anna sat under the oak memorial, Mr. Paws on her lap. Lawrence joined her quietly. "They grew up faster movement," she said softly. He looked up at the stars above them, kind of like constellations forming, clustering across the sky. She rested her head on his shoulder. "We keep looking up, and there, under a canopy of distant starlight and human voices, they held the quiet peace of knowing something beautiful had begun and something lasting had been built on ashes and truth." The first anniversary of Ethan's passing dawned clear and cold at the Maddox estate. Frost traced delicate patterns on window panes. Inside, Anna and Lawrence prepared for a remembrance gathering at the lake house. A bronze plaque glinted near the oak, surrounded by a small stone circle and wildflower seeds sprouting green tendrils. Families from across branches arrived. Detroit youth ambassadors, Phoenix storytellers, Denver listening circle leaders, and prairie teens. They carried star-shaped lanterns, journals, and blankets embroidered with Ethan's voice logos. The air was full of anticipation, not grief, but reverence. Anna wore a simple navy coat and carried Mr. Paws tucked in her arm. Lawrence stood beside her. Neither spoke until Anna stepped onto the dock. She raised a single lantern and held it for a moment. "This is for Ethan, for every child whose truth was denied." The crowd watched solemnly as she lit her flame. Then parents and children followed suit, lighting their own lanterns. Golden lights bobbed over the water. A hush fell. She spoke softly. "1 year ago, this place was a source of heartbreak. Today it's a place of promise, proof that truth matters and voices can heal. This lantern is not just light. It's life." She waited as tears glistened in eyes around her. A choir of teens sang quietly, "We see your light, and hold it onward." The melody drifted across the silent lake. Afterward, each branch representative placed letters into a community archive chest built for Ethan's voice. Joshua from Cincinnati added his star letter. Marisol from Detroit placed a drawing. A child from Milwaukee wrote poetry. Anna placed Ethan's own framed letter in last, the trunk sealed with a wooden star-shaped lock. Lawrence addressed the group. "We began in silence. We honored truth. Now we honor choice. The choice every child deserves. To be heard, believed, and valued." He paused, looking at Anna. "Together, we're building lasting truth. That's his legacy and yours." As dusk deepened, families shared stories around bonfires. Some lit sparklers. Volunteers served hot cider. Children laughed in circles. Conversations ranged from heartbreak to hope, safety to resilience. When the gathering ended, Lawrence offered his shoulder for the ride home. Anna sat quietly beside him, lantern lights still glowing in the rearview mirror. Back at the estate, Anna carried Mr. Paws to Ethan's room, now lovingly preserved as a small memory space. She placed the stuffed bear on the windowsill, along with a single lantern. It cast warm reflection in the glass. In the library, as the house settled, they gathered again. Daniel joined with a sheet of paper, an invitation from UNESCO to attend a global youth advocacy summit in Geneva next summer. His eyes gleamed. "They've heard about you. They want you to bring the story." Anna looked at Lawrence. "We're going." He nodded, a smile lighting his face. "We are. The next morning, Anna walked into her study and found the entire wall of sketches had grown dense with pinned notes addresses of emerging chapters in Portland, Miami, Kansas City, Atlanta. Beside each, dates, and small icons created an ever-expanding constellation map of children-led hope. She paused, took a breath, then sat at her desk, pen in hand. She began to write, not for the public but for Ethan. The words came slow at first, then steady. Dear brother, you taught me what truth can do. With your letter, I found my voice. With every child's voice, we found ours. She wrote for pages. Afternoon sun caught her as she folded the letter and placed it in a brass box with other memories, Ethan's drawings, her own journal entries. The box stood on a shelf between their photos. A small, star-shaped beam of light shone through the window onto it. Lawrence found her there. He read the top page, voice catching. Together, we carry him, through voices and kindness and bridges of trust. He folded her gently into a hug. You carry more than words. He placed a kiss on her forehead. You carry light. At dusk, they walked to the oak tree. Anna looked up at the stars, Mr. Paws in hand. Lawrence said softly, Ethan's star is not alone. He pointed to Cassiopeia, its stars forming a W. That's where he belongs with others, together, guiding forward. Anna smiled. And we belong with them. They placed a final lantern at the base of the oak. Tiny lights flickered among roots and wildflowers. As night enveloped the estate, the sky shimmered with constellations. The lake reflected lanterns. Children's voices spoke encouragement in a soft breeze. Anna tucked Mr. Paws under her arm and whispered into darkness, We're doing it. For you. Lawrence leaned in close. They stood silent under the vast night, holding grief and purpose woven together, watching a legacy of light spread beyond heartbreak into healing, courage, and truth. In the glow of new constellations, they finally understood, you don't just make a legacy, you become one. The story teaches us that truth, no matter how small or silenced, carries the power to ignite justice and healing. Through Anna's unwavering courage and the voices of children once overlooked, we see that truly listening is the first act of justice. The legacy of Ethan's voice reminds us that change begins not with grand speeches, but with brave whispers that refuse to be ignored. In honoring those whispers, we build a world where every story matters,